about how I go about doing that. But if you can get to the point where you've got some awareness of what's going on up here, then you've got choice.
So on reflection then, when someone has perhaps gone through ACT, sometimes it's trying to catch yourself in the heat of the moment when you are stressed and you know you're on the tipping point, but it's just like a train. It keeps going and there's nothing slowing it down. How does a person catch themselves in the moment?
Yeah.
To try and recognize that, because that sometimes is the breaking point, is knowing when to catch yourself.
Well, let's kind of go back to basics. If you have no awareness of how you're thinking, and people get habituated into behaviours, there's been a lot written about habituation of human behaviours. If you do get habituated into something, often people aren't even aware of the thoughts and then the subsequent emotions and the subsequent behaviours. So you've got to get to a point where you understand what it is that's showing up for you, what emotions that's driving, and then what actions that is pushing because of that.
Yeah.
So that it's getting that awareness first of all. And there are lots of different ways of cultivating awareness. Some people do meditation, some people do mindfulness techniques. And it doesn't have to be anything particularly spiritual. A lot of the stuff that I do is actually very secular. There's no kind of religious or spiritual connotation to it. It is literally about me just gaining a bit more awareness over what's going on up here. Yeah. And, in my courses, I share quite a lot more detail about how I go about doing that. But if you can get to the point where you've got some awareness of what's going on up here, then you've got choice and you've got an opportunity to interrupt that cycle. So the awareness is the first bit, and then comes, how do I actually distance myself from what's going on? Because, you've had emotions before, I'm sure. They can feel uncomfortable at times if it's in response to something that's challenging in your life. They can feel horrible. They can feel like, some people, get it in their chest. Some people feel it in their gut. Some people feel it in their shoulders. They feel it in different parts of their body. And it's kind of, it's a language that's speaking to you to some extent in response to a particular thought. So in ACT, we have certain techniques, one called cognitive diffusion, another one which is emotional acceptance, or willing acceptance is the proper term. And we use those after we've recognized, to actually disconnect from a thought which is unhelpful. Now, remember I mentioned earlier, there's helpful and unhelpful thoughts.
Yeah.
They're not good or bad. They're just helpful or unhelpful. And because, what's a good thought for me might be a bad thought for you, and vice versa, because it's a completely subjective thing.
Yeah.
But thoughts are either helpful or they're unhelpful. So we look at it and we go, okay, well, is that particular thought aligned with my values and what's important to me? No, it's not. Therefore, it's an unhelpful thought. I will choose to diffuse it and accept the associated emotions, and then I'll realign myself towards what's important. And if you can do that, you will find after a period of time that you started to create this lovely virtuous cycle, and the monkey sitting on your shoulder that's banging the drum, shouting at you, pay attention to me, just gets that little bit quieter. And that's what I love about ACT. And it can be taught to anybody, and it will benefit almost anybody in our society.